Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm going to be very brief today, but I'm kind of taken aback by, first of all, the lack of information. I do sit on sub 2. I do have a direct question for sub 2. In sub 2, there was $1.5 billion proposed to buy senior water rights, and I brought great exception to how that's going to lay out. So I don't see in here, in the budget process, any detail laid out on what that's going to look like. And in many places throughout my district, the state has seen fit to buy land or ranches that had water rights with them over the past 30 or 40 years, and then they don't manage them very well at all, and there's no funding to manage them. Along with those, there are water rights with those farms, and the state ends up holding those water rights. And so I want to just go on record saying that, I'm very concerned about the state proposing to buy senior water rights. And the fact that what that will do not only to the environment, because without management and owning of water rights, which is, quite frankly, these are they're a private property right. A water right is a private property right. And when the state takes that private property right away or buys it, and the chair of sub 2 said, these are willing sellers. And I want to go on record, you're not a willing seller until you can't make a living on your farm anymore, and then you're a willing seller. And then that means that the public is going to own those water rights. And what we do with those water rights in perpetuity are going to affect how our communities look. For all of you who have an ag community, if the government's owning your water right, it's going to look different. You're not going to have a dealership there for the tractor salesman. You're not going to have your store. You're not going to have a community, because that's what supports your community. So I just want to go on record that I'd like to see more detail on how we're going to lay out purchase of senior water rights. I think it's critical. That's number one. Number two, we have $97 billion in surplus. That means that we've met our obligations, and we just inherited $97 billion. More money than some countries for their whole budget are. It's astronomical. It's a lot of money. It's $2,400 per resident in California. Now there's all kinds of proposals in here about how we're going to give it back to them, instead of just maybe directly giving it right back to them because they're the ones that paid it. I know that's a concept that doesn't seem to get very much traction around this place, but it's actually laudable. Maybe we should just give them their money back and stop handing it and doing the Mother May I program, and here you get a little over here and you get this over there, and just give them back some of their money. So that's a concept that maybe we ought to take a look at in this budget process as well. The third thing I want to talk about, which is really disheartening to me, is the APPS program. That's the that's the folks who have guns, firearms, that are felons, and we know they have those firearms. I can't remember, the acronym for APPS is Armed and Prohibited Persons Having a Firearm. Zero money in this budget for that. Why don't we empower the AG's office and local sheriffs to go get the firearms? Smiley Martin should not have had a firearm. These are people that are felonies, and I want to go on record that we're not funding that. Why are we not funding that in California right now? We have plenty of money. We should make sure that our Attorney General's office and our local sheriffs have the resources to go out and get illegal firearms out of felonies' hands. Those are the three things I wanted to comment on today. And if you want to respond, I'd be happy to hear it. We don't get much play as Republicans in the budget, but there's surely some things that could be done a little bit better, in my opinion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dahle. Senator Laird, before I call on you, I'm going to allow Senator Wieckowski to go first because some of the water questions he can address. But I wanted to just point out, in the $97 billion surplus, due to our to Prop 98, $40 billion of that surplus goes directly to our public schools. So if we were to reconstruct that and instead give as you have suggested, all of it back to taxpayers, we would be denying our K through 12 schools $40 billion. So just want to make that little clarification. But let me call in Senator Wachowski and then Senator Laird.
Yes, Senator Dahle, thank you for repeating the concerns that you have with this, with the Senate $18.5 billion proposal. Can you hear me? Okay, so what has happened, we will continue to work on our five-prong drought plan, which will include $2 billion to buy senior property rights or senior water rights, and $500 million to buy the land. I will direct you to Tom Birmingham, who is the general manager of the Westlands Water District, which is the largest agricultural water district in our country. And he was quoted as commenting that the Senate plan makes an awful lot of sense because what it means is that the conflict can be avoided with people complaining about the water rights. And he goes on to be quoted that many farmers, their children simply are not interested in continuing with the farm. And he believes that there are a lot of people right now in the Westlands Water District and throughout the state who are willing to sell their senior water rights. And so we'll continue to work with that. This budget before us includes $21 billion for climate, of which we've articulated 4.34. There is another $16.6 billion that we haven't worked out the details, that sub 2 and our counterparts in sub 3 in the assembly will work out those details. It will include the Senate $18.5 billion drought climate package, obviously with adjustments for the dollars, but all the component parts are still very much alive and very much being negotiated with the governor and with the assembly. That's sub 2. And I'll continue to work with you, as I always have, on the details of what that may look like. But and there's also, I just will say in front of us, we have another 1.2 billion that are being spent on resources that are separated out there, and I'll just call out 180 million for the organic programs, which helps every one of our local districts to meet their requirements that are under SB 1383. So that we did 180 million last year. This is another year. There's lots of good stuff in there, but a bulk of it is going to be negotiated going forward.
Thank you for those remarks, Senator Wachowski. But again, I want to just, I can hardly keep from just exploding right now. Yeah, the Westlands Water District, you know why kids don't go into
Senator
farming?
Dahle, if you could just be brief, because Senator Laird is next on my list and I didn't
I'll be really brief.
acknowledge you.
If you don't have water and you don't have people farming, California is going to look a lot different in about 20 years. A lot different. And the reason that families don't continue to farm is because the legislature makes it really hard to stay in business in California. There you go.
All right.